You're listening to Healthy Aging and Healthy Living on New England's News and Talk Radio, 8:30 a.m. WCRN.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Peter Lee, Healthy Aging, Healthy Living from Professional Hearing in Westboro. We're talking to Jane. Jane is a patient of ours who's experienced some hearing problems, not just herself, but through her family throughout the years, and she was just telling us earlier about that. But I'm often asked, why are hearing instrument specialists like ourselves talking about healthy aging, healthy living? And it's because recent research has shown that uncorrected and poor hearing can lead to a host of maladies that impact the quality of your life. For example, uncorrected hearing loss has been linked to a threefold increase in slips and falls. It's also been linked to an increased risk of dementia. In addition to that, uncorrected hearing loss is linked to your quality of life and how it impacts your anxiety and depression. So there are many, many things that hearing loss affects, even the whole social situation of being isolated. Anyway, getting back to Jane here. Jane, can you talk to us a little bit about what life was like for you before you had your hearing corrected, and how was the hearing loss affecting you prior to getting hearing corrected?
At first, I decided that it wasn't me. Again, I was in the denial. But then I noticed I was dropping out of things that I had been involved in because I couldn't hear. So I didn't go to activities.
So you started to withdraw.
I started to withdraw from things and became a homebody. And I'm not like that usually. And I also am a social worker and work with senior citizens who have experienced the same thing. And in talking with them, I realized that this was going to be a long-term thing for me. It was not going to be a hearing loss due to an illness that was like an allergy attack or a cold or something, and that I really had to do something for it if I was going to still be in the working community. I enjoy working, and I wanted to be there, but I couldn't hear people. And I found that I had to do something about it. So not only was it affecting me in my personal life, it was affecting me in my professional life. I'd go to meetings, and I'd probably get half to three-quarters of what was said at meetings, especially when people were talking at the same time. I find now I can focus in and still hear everything that's going on, and probably some of the things I may not want to hear either. But I do find that at work it was extremely important that I be able to hear. And you can compensate and you can rationalize your behavior, but there comes a time when you have to do something about it if you want to succeed. And that's who I am.
So you've hit on a couple of subjects. One was that withdrawal. When we studied the psychology of the hearing impaired, people who are hearing impaired, they tend to withdraw because they don't hear when you don't hear what's going on around you, you tend to just withdraw into yourself, and you even begin to lose some of your attention span.
You do. Your mind starts wandering, and I kept worrying that something was the matter with me, that I was not focusing in on what was happening. It was all because of the hearing. And since then, I've taken on some new things at work and organizing different projects and things that I feel more comfortable doing now because I can hear people much better.
The other thing you mentioned was at meetings when multiple people are speaking at the same time, you can't separate who's saying what because everything kind of comes in all one mishmash. And that's another sign for people who have hearing difficulties, another symptom.
Very, very much so. And you'd be constantly looking like you were playing ping pong, looking back and forth and to see who was talking next. And one of the meetings that I attend, I have to write notes. I'm the secretary,
You're the secretary
of it, and I have to do that. And I'd sit there and say, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? I can't understand who's saying what anymore."
Wow.
And It kind of made me face the reality that I had to do something. And then I kept saying to myself, you're being like your dad was, and like your aunts and your uncles and your grandfather was. You're in denial. You have to do something. I'm the only one that can fix this problem. And I wasn't going to be like them. I wanted to be part of the world again. I just...
So you took action and grabbed the bull by the horns.
That's right.
And
I live
With
in
trepidation, you stuck your toe into the water just to get the temperature.
I live in Shrewsbury, and I read the newsletter. I am a senior myself, and I read the newsletter, and many months came by, and I kept seeing that Mr. Lee would be at the Shrewsbury Senior Center. So one day I had the day off when he was there, and I went up and had a preliminary hearing test done, and then came down to the office and followed up with a very, very thorough hearing evaluation. I couldn't believe what I couldn't hear. The results weren't really surprising because I kind of knew that I couldn't hear, but I didn't know how bad it was.
So it was sort of a confirmation.
It was very much so.
You were suspecting something was going on, but you weren't quite sure, and you didn't quite know how severe the degree was.
Right.
And
I kept thinking it was going to get better.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
And so then when we went through the little demonstration, because after we did the hearing test, we went through a little demonstration, your eyes kind of lit up.
Very much so. I felt rejuvenated right in the office. I felt like, gee, I can really hear again. I can start doing things again. And I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
I have not had one day of regret since I got them. Every single day I put them in. As soon as I get ready for work, I put them in. And I go to bed very late, so they're in about 18 hours a day.
Wow.
And when I take them out, it's such a loss. I came in for an adjustment earlier today, and Mr. Lee took them out. Wait a minute here, I can't hear anything now. So it's, once you get used to them, I had no trouble getting used to mine whatsoever. I was ready for them. I wanted to hear. And when you get ready for something, you do it. And then you it's just like anything else. When you have a toothache, you go to the dentist and you do what they say to do to get the toothache better. Well, this is a hearing loss. You have to be treated for it, and then you get better.
Yeah. But I do remember looking at your hearing loss when you first came in, and if I was to grade the severity, it was like a mild, moderate hearing loss. We see a lot of people a lot worse than you, and they're not ready, and yet you were so ready. And when you got them in your ear, you just lit up. It was like, my God, where have you been all my life?
Right. That's exactly it. That's what you feel like. You feel like a new person, and I have a friend at work who talks very softly.
Yes.
And I have asked her not to change her voice because I wanted to see what was happening to me. And so I was constantly asking her to repeat things and all. And I said, I can't keep doing this forever. So she was sort of a catalyst to never saying anything about it whatsoever. But I value her friendship a lot, and I said I've got to be able to communicate with people. And again, working with people all day long, every day, I need to be able to hear what they're saying.
I seem to remember you had you go to some religious services, and you notice a big difference at the religious service.
Very much so. That was where I was having the most difficulty. Yeah. Was at church, and I love church. I love Mass. I love being a part of things, and I could not hear. I kept sitting closer and closer. Pretty soon, I was going to be up on the altar too, and I still couldn't. But a lot of it was the mumbling, the clarity. I can't stress enough how much the clarity improved. I always felt like everybody was mumbling all the time. I'm saying, why can't these people speak clearer? And once I got the hearing aids, it was my fault. I was the one who was hearing so poorly.
Right. So it wasn't even volume, it was clarity.
It was
you could always hear people talking, just couldn't make out what they were saying.
That's right.
A lot of the words were running into each other.
Right.
And so you wouldn't get the clear consonant sounds. And so what we actually do is actually substitute those words and syllables, and we read lips and everything. Mm-hmm. But you also talked about going out to eat at a restaurant with background noise. Background noise is often a difficulty for many, many people like you.
I was just going to say that. I stopped going out to eat. I couldn't hear conversations. I would just sit there, and I felt so uncomfortable that I just decided I wasn't going to go anywhere. Even on a one-to-one basis, I was having difficulty, not only in a group, but it became worse, and I had to compensate for that. So my way of compensating was stay home. and that's not good. You have to be able to be in the world.
Jane, thank you for sharing so many wonderful ideas and thoughts with us. We're going to get ready for a break now.
Okay.
But when we come back, we'll continue to talking with Jane. But this is Peter Lee, Healthy Aging, Healthy Living. Think young, stay young, and be young.